Hold on to your donuts because we've got ourselves a fresh Mandela Effect. And for this one, I brought receipts. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Dunkin Donuts. Calling all Gen X, elder millennials, and anyone who was around in the 90s, especially if you're from the East Coast. Growing up in the 80s and 90s in New England, Dunkin Donuts wasn't just coffee and donuts. It was pretty much part of our everyday. We had Dunkin' everything. Cereal, toys, kitchenware, for just a few examples. But you name it, and we had it. D&D, as we used to call it back in the day, was at every event, big or small. In my town alone, we had at least 4 or 5 locations, even back in the early 90s. And for a lot of high schoolers, working at Dunkin' was basically a rite of passage. I worked there myself fall of 1994, well into the spring of 95. It was my senior year. I was on my own, having just recently left home, ironically over being told I had to take the job at Dunkin Donuts. And then I was pregnant and a mom by mid-96. So I know where I was and what I was doing at that exact time, which brings me to one day back in April of 2022, my husband and I, we actually went to high school together, so he knows what I'm about to show you, but we were watching Good Mythical Morning. The episode was about Dunkin Donuts and we were psyched because obviously we were going to crush it. But then...
Give me a baseline. I got the job done. Boom, 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 boom.
Within just a year of adding bagels to their menu, Dunkin' became the #1 seller of bagels in the country.
That's power.
The Dunkin' breakfast sandwich was added to the menu in 1997.
Yeah.
Did they just say Dunkin' sandwiches weren't a thing until 1997? I was so shocked, I yelled, "Wait, what?" And my husband, without missing a beat, goes, no, they are definitely wrong. Because we both not only remember, but know that in high school, specifically 1994 and 1995, we very much had D&D sandwiches on the regular. And I didn't just eat those sandwiches, I made hundreds of them. Not just breakfast sandwiches either, or even just bagel sandwiches. We had bagels, croissants, English muffins, even hard rolls. Bacon, sausage, ham, egg and cheese, and even chicken and tuna salad. The eggs, we made them in a very specific way. We used some cooking spray in these little waxy square trays and at times waxy paper bowls and microwaved them. In fact, my family still makes eggs occasionally in a very similar way because I worked there and we did that. Even a friend who also worked at a different location in the same high school time period saw the picture of the tray I'm using for this video and was like, yep, those things. So I did what anyone with a smartphone and the knowledge that they were right about something does. I went to the interwebs. I looked everywhere and at everything Dunkin' Donuts sandwiches. And also bagels, because we definitely also had them, and not just regular plain bagels, but a variety of flavors. Most notably, multiple friends from back then brought up the veggie ones that had green and red chunks of like spinach and maybe sun-dried tomatoes in them. But seriously, every single source, including Dunkin's own website, said 1996 was when the bagels came out. And a year later, in 1997, was when they started serving sandwiches. I started feeling crazy, even though I could name at least half a dozen people easily who worked at Dunkin' at the same time span, and all of them remembered it just like I did. And in fact, most of the time when asked about the sandwiches back in high school, without any other question or reason for my asking, I instantly got validation with details. So I kept digging for 3 freaking years for some sort of hard proof. Not just our collective memory, since those can always be argued. It was rough. I was beginning to think I would never find anything. And then, finally, I found it. One old article with a photo from an event in Quincy, Massachusetts. And in the background, behind good old Time to Make the Donuts Fred and the CEO at the time, Bob Rosenberg, who was actually wearing a hat celebrating Customer Appreciation Day 1995, is a menu board. And right there, listed on it, clear as day, sandwiches. With the help of another article about the same event, I found the exact date, January 31st, 1995, and the source photo, which happened to be a Getty image, meaning it has an official listing naming the event, people, location, and date. Literal and solid proof. 3 years of hyperfixation validated. And before anyone goes, well, it says specials. Yeah, okay, but specials back then just meant combo deals. The fact is, the sandwiches were real in January of 1995, and they were available on the regular. Now, the most reasonable explanation, could it have been a test market? Fair question, but I'm gonna have to say no, probably not. This wasn't just one store, it wasn't even just our town. We saw these sandwiches all over the region. We could drive in any direction into different towns, even different states, and still get the sandwiches. And we were not even in the same state as Dunkin's then headquarters in Massachusetts. And this was for years before bagels or sandwiches were supposedly a thing. And it wasn't a one-time or limited promo. They were simply just a thing in our area. And if it was a regional long-term launch, like a widespread one, then why not just say that? Say in 1997, Dunkin' Donuts sandwiches were finally available nationwide or widespread. Why pretend? This is really giving Fruit of the Loom cornucopia vibes, and we all know that has been disproven despite the official word on it. I don't know what the logic is behind rewriting this little piece of breakfast history, but I do know it's wrong, and I'm not the only one who knows it. So go ahead, Dunkin', spin your narrative. But I remember. We remember, and won't be gaslit about our own experiences. So tell me, do you remember Dunkin' Donuts sandwiches before 1997? Bagels before 1996? Let me know in the comments and share this video. Because history may be written by the victors, but breakfast? Breakfast was written by the sandwich makers.